The New York Times has been dealing with a bedbug infestation, much like the Trump Doral property in Miami. Now, they put out a statement to their employees just to make sure everyone knows about it, and there was something published online. And there were a lot of snarky comments in response. One of those snarky comments, which I enjoyed, came from an associate professor at George Washington University. He had tweeted the following: "The bedbugs are a metaphor. The bedbugs are Bret Stephens." Now, who is Bret Stephens? He's a conservative columnist at the New York Times. He's one of these individuals who's targeted college students for safe spaces. He's talked about the importance of free speech. He's also published some climate change denialist crap, let's keep it real. And so I can understand why people have some negative feelings toward him. Now, let me just say the tweet got 9 likes, 0 retweets. And at that point, Bret Stephens sent an email to this individual to basically call him out and show how upset he was at being called a bedbug. So let me give you a portion of the email. He writes, "I'm often amazed about the things supposedly decent people are prepared to say about other people they've never met on Twitter. I think you've set a new standard."
Really? That's the new standard of lowness? Okay,
yeah.
All right.
"I would welcome the opportunity for you to come to my home, meet my wife and kids, talk to us for a few minutes, and then call me a bedbug to my face. That would take some genuine courage and intellectual integrity on your part." Now, the provost of the university was included in this email, okay? So there's Bret Stephens. Go ahead and cry about it. And so this story is incredible for so many different reasons. First of all, I can't help but think about it and react to it from my own context because we know what it's like. Just last week I had to ask one of my male colleagues to start my car for me outside so I could run from inside the studio straight to my car so I can get out of here because of the severe threats I've been getting, right? I didn't want to waste time being out in public 1 second longer than I needed to be. That's the world we're living in, right? But Bret Stephens is out there crying because someone called him a bedbug. In fact, he went on a little press tour to talk about it. I want to go to that video in just a second, but first you.
Actually, the worst part of this story is that he included the provost in that email. So obviously trying to get the professor fired or in trouble at his institution, okay? So it's one thing to get all emotional and catch feelings over being called a bedbug. That's just amusing. But when you try to get the guy fired for saying, calling you a bedbug, that is literally the smallest insult, again, literal, that I have ever seen on Twitter. And when Anna's right, it's particularly galling for those of us on the left that have to deal with nonstop threats, including death threats from the right wing, nonstop, basically trying to terrorize people on the left. And then this guy gets tweaked. The guy didn't even say at Bret Stephens, right? So we don't even know how he found it. And this thing that got 0 retweets, as small as a bedbug, and he's like, "Oh, I hate your free speech. I'm gonna try to get you fired." So now let's see him try to explain it away.
You deactivated your Twitter account after a controversy that involved someone calling you a name.
I think Twitter brings out the worst in its users. It tends to bring out the worst in its users. So I wrote him a personal email. I didn't go to Twitter. I wrote him a personal email, which I think was very civil, saying that I didn't appreciate it. I also copied his provost on the note. People are upset about this. I want to be clear. I had no intention whatsoever to get him in any kind of professional trouble, but it is the case at the New York Times and other institutions that people should be aware, managers should be aware of the way in which their people, their professors or journalists interact with the rest of the world. All I would say is that using dehumanizing rhetoric like bedbugs or analogizing people to insects is always wrong. We can do better. We should be the people on social media that we are in real life.
I would agree with that final statement for sure. Is that the worst thing that you have ever been called on social media?
I love Jansen asking that question. So let's keep it real. Everyone, it doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum. You know when he says, I wasn't trying to get him in any kind of professional trouble. I just thought his manager should know. You know that that's not true, right? Why are you telling his manager when you don't know his manager? It's not like his manager is your drinking buddy and you're just telling him for no reason. No, you're doing it to get him in professional trouble.
Right.
There's no question about that. So that was actually the worst and most disingenuous part of this whole thing.
So he talks about, like, look, we need to be civil. We need to speak to people in like a professional way. Like, let's not use social media to attack people. But he uses his position as a columnist at the New York Times to put out insults that are far worse and actually have negative impacts on people's lives and well-being. So I'll give you examples. He called the campus rape epidemic an imaginary enemy. Okay. He's also written that anti-Semitism was, quote, the disease of the Arab mind.
Oh.
So that's who Bret Stephens is. And that's just a little sampling, like a little nibble taste of the kind of stuff he puts out there. I would argue far more insulting than being called a bedbug, especially as someone, again, who has some following, who has some power, who has the ability to really focus the conversation on various issues. And this is the way he does it. He also likes to give speeches on college campuses about the importance of protecting freedom of expression. Take a look.
I've been thinking a lot about safe spaces lately. Once you designate some spaces as safe, you imply that the rest are unsafe. It follows that they should be made safer. That is an important insight. It shows how easily an impulse to shield and protect the vulnerable quickly becomes a desire and then a demand to impose a particular concept of safety on others, whether they want it or not. Instead of wanting to emerge at last from the cocoons of their safe spaces, they want to extend the domain of those spaces into the next stages of their lives. We live in a world that makes it easy to continue inhabiting these safe spaces. So here's my advice to you. Get out of your own safe spaces. Narrow your criteria for what's beyond the pale. Safe spaces, physical and intellectual, are for children.
He has also published pieces titled Free Speech and the Necessity of Discomfort.
Oh, well, not unless you're talking about bedbugs. I mean, they're really uncomfortable.
And here is a tweet before he had deactivated his account over his hurt feelings. Our nation cannot maintain its culture of free speech if we continue to reward those who speak to destroy careers rather than rebut ideas. And he's quoting David French there. And he says, David French, as astute as usual.
Yes. Now, when you email somebody's provost and their manager to try to get them fired, that would seem to be just trying to destroy their careers. But hey, that was you who was offended, not someone else. So look, last thing on the cocoon of the safe space that Bret Stephens would like to live in. I'm not against people being civil online. I would love it. It would be an enormous relief, right? But you can't have it both ways. You can't say these stupid left-wingers, just when we say racist things to them, all of a sudden they need a safe space. You need a cocoon, just because we're racist and bigots. And by the way, when you talk about how anti-Semitism is the disease of the Arab mind, or however he phrased it, as you just heard, that's racist, period. I know in Washington they think, oh, you can insult Arabs and Muslims all day long. That doesn't count. I don't know why that doesn't count. They make it sound like, oh, only, well, he literally said, as if only Arabs are anti-Semitic. Pretty sure the Arabs didn't do the Holocaust. But if he had written in the New York Times, it was Christians who did the Holocaust, which is an indisputable fact, he actually would have gotten in trouble for saying something that's true. But saying something bigoted, not in trouble. But then, if you're offended by that, you go, he goes, so what are you, safe space? Yeah, Arabs are the worst. They're the anti-Semites, no one else. What, you're offended by it? Oh, are you crying? Hey, listen, it seems like you're a bedbug. Oh my God, somebody criticized me. You guys are such snowflakes and hypocrites. Look, anyone who can't see how the right wing is monumentally full of crap, it just isn't paying attention. They never mean anything they say. And Bret Stephens, go ahead, you could email my manager. Yes, I called you full of crap.
The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.